Love Mother's Day, and you get the sense that some of you are here because Mom wanted you here. Difference between Mother's Day, Father's Day, right? Moms are working hard, like how can I get my kids to church? What time does it start? Let me get them here on time. I'll make sure they're fed. Hopefully Mom's not doing the feeding. I'll make sure they're fed so they'll come to church. Father's Day, what time does church end, fathers say, so I can go to eat? So you come to church for your mom to eat on Mother's Day. On Father's Day, it's like if I go to church, I get to eat. And on Father's Day, it's what time does church end so that I can watch or play golf and things like that. Totally get that. Fathers and mothers, different approaches to that. Moms, we love you. We're for you. I remember my mom, as Pastor Daniel said, his mother very influential in his spiritual formation. My mom, for me, you would probably remember, if you've been here at any time at all, my mother was blind, family disease, 2 of her brothers also, so 3 of the 6 in her family blind, but my mom never really let that stop her. 5 kids. One of my fondest memories, I was about 9th grade. I never really played much baseball or anything, but the little church I grew up in had a 16-inch softball league. You know, I'm talking about the big soft mush ball. And since I was no good, they put me behind the plate as a catcher because this is what you do. But I never caught, and so I needed to practice. And so God bless my mom, who was, have I mentioned, blind. I stepped off how far the pitcher's mound was. I would kneel down in a catcher's crouch, and I would continually talk to her, and she pitched to me. It made me a much better catcher because you never knew where the ball was going to go. And I didn't have any pass balls that entire time. And so I am so thankful about that. The thing my mom brought was not only that can-do spirit, she also brought a deep, abiding faith. Again, Pastor Daniel talked about prayer. My mom prayed all the time. Every night I'd hear her pray. She'd gather the kids around on the couch, give us the Bible because she couldn't read it, and she'd assign us to read maybe a short portion, and then we'd pray together. In all of the time that I was growing up, I never heard her pray to get her eyesight back. But I heard her pray every night for my father to come to faith. That's the kind of faith my mom had. So moms, you have a deep, outsized impact on the lives of your husbands, on the lives of your sons, your daughters, and your grandkids. And so take your copy of the scriptures. We're in a series through the book of Proverbs talking about the path, the way. Which way do we go? Proverbs 31. Proverbs chapter 31. And there's a theme verse there, and that is, charm is deceptive. Beauty is vain. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. This is the theme of this entire chapter. The charm is deceitful. Beauty is vain. Doesn't mean they're unimportant. It's certainly nice to have charm. It's nice to have beauty. But at the end of the day, they're not lasting. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And then what we're doing today, give her the fruit of her hands. In other words, what she has earned by way of those character things, we need to help her celebrate and let her works praise her in the gates. The gates is the idea of in the public square. Proverbs chapter 31. And let me begin reading in verse 25. So Jen Vavrinchik, thank you for reading excerpts of that. As we read through it, well, let me read through it, and then you'll get a sense of that. Beginning in verse 25. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth and with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. And then there's quotation marks around this next verse. Many women have done excellently. This is what the husband says to the wife, the children to the mother. Many women have done excellently. We're not going to downplay. There are many wonderful, strong, godly women in this church or in your realm of influence, but you surpass them all. Give her the fruit of her hands. And then there's that emphasis again on getting the reward that she has earned, and let her works praise her in the gates. If we were to take, for example, all the way what Jen read, all the way from verses 10 through 24 before this concluding section, here's what we're going to find. Wives are trustworthy. They are effective managers. I mean, you look at verse 13. All right, Proverbs 31, verse 13. Are we there? Anybody else join me there? It's lonely in here. Okay, good. Verse 13. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. Now, I have a little note I wrote because I love the original turn of phrase here. Literally at the pleasure of her hands. Meaning she loves the role the Lord has assigned to her. And she does the things that she loves. She works with willing hands. There's not a reluctance. There's not a resentfulness. There is rather a sense of taking pleasure at the roles to which she has been assigned. Like the ships, verse 14, she is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. By the way, this means she has help. She doesn't do this all on her own. When it says she provides portions for her maidens, it means she assigns out the tasks for those who help around the house. Kids, when mom gives you chores, this is a good thing. And all the moms in the room said, and then you do your job. And this is how we learn. Verse 16, as she considers a field, she buys it. With the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard. In other words, she is a trustworthy person. She is an effective manager. She is shrewd and generous, verses 17 through 20. She dresses herself with strength. She makes her arms strong. Repeatedly, she's called a woman who is strong. Not only strength of character, but the strength to be able to add value in every relationship that she has. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. There's an industry involved here. She is being able to do good financially for the family. She puts her hand to the distaff. She puts her hand, and her hands hold the spindle. This speaks of making clothing. I love verse 20. She opens her hands to the poor, reach out her hands to the needy. There's a generous piece to her spirit, to her character. Verse 21, she's not afraid of snow for her household, for all of her household are clothed in scarlet. That's, by the way, a fun little double entendre. The word for scarlet can also mean double thickness. So in other words, wintertime, they got the heavy sweaters. Do you ever see a Christmas Story and the little brother is like, he's like a tick ready to pop. And so, well, listen, moms know how to think ahead and plan all this stuff. And verse 23, her husband's known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. In other words, guys, your wife makes you look brilliant. And we want to say thank you for that. And verse 24, she makes linen garments. She sells them. So she, out of the overflow, she's also an entrepreneur. And she delivers sashes to the merchants. So she's wholesaling. All of those things. In other words, she's trustworthy, a shrewd manager, generous, and farsighted. And right now, all the moms in the room are like, great. I come to church on Sunday and you guilt trip me into this kind of stuff. Well, let's be clear. Proverbs 31, listen. Proverbs 31, this extended poem, and by the way, from verse 10 all the way through the end of the chapter is a poem where every verse, it's so brilliantly written, every verse starts with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it's very thoughtfully crafted, but it's not written by a man. It's written by a mom to her son. It's not written to a woman saying, do all these things. It's written to a son saying, son, when you think about marrying, marry this kind of a woman. In fact, if you go all the way back, look at chapter 31, verse 2. Well, you can look at verse 1. These are the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. Okay, so it's king. We're talking about somebody highly valued, highly influential. And here's what mom said to this young man. It's so good because every mom has said this. What are you doing? Again, what are you doing? Well, third, what are you doing? Okay, moms, don't say it out loud, but right? You're not supposed to say it out loud. Okay. Now, look, this is just so good. Do not give your strength to women. Or like you're young, in his case, powerful and influential. Don't waste that on sexual dalliances with women. Be a man of character. In your ways to those who destroy kings. Look at verse 4. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine or rulers to take strong drink. Be careful about giving your strength, young men, in illicit sexual relationships or in putting things into your body that will take control of you. We don't overdrink. We don't don't give yourself. Don't absorb these things to the point of it clouding your judgment and harming your potential. And then she talks about from verses 10 through 31, here's what you should look for in a wife or in a woman. And so let's just lay it out here. Here are the things. A godly woman is strong, wise, good, and influential. All right, a godly woman, strong, wise, good, and influential. And you can find it all throughout the verses, especially we pick it up verse 25. And want to illustrate it on a Mother's Day by looking at the lives of 4 women who modeled this kind of a thing. So let's look at strong. Verse 25, strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the times to come, at the days ahead. There is a strength, and you want to see a model of that. Maybe one of the greatest Old Testament models of a strong woman is Sarah. This is Abraham's wife. You think of Sarah. Here was the value proposition. Hey, Sarah. Abraham, already an effective businessman, a landowner, a rancher in the east. Sarah, we're moving. Great, Abraham, where are we going? Just trust me on this one. Yeah, but are we going to Chicago where I need a sweater or Miami where I need the bathing suit? Hey, trust me, I don't know. Kurt, honestly. Rach, what do you think? You're good with this? You've kind of lived it a little bit? Yeah. And so they do this travel, 600 miles around the Fertile Crescent. They get into the Promised Land, and he's like, okay, where are we going to settle, Abraham? Just trust me. Let's do it. They settle in, and I'm telling you, not a year later, famine strikes. And because Sarah, she was pioneer. She was, by the way, the first in her family to be a woman of faith. If you are that, you are in line with Sarah. She was tough. She might be what you describe today as a mama bear, always defending her family. In fact, here's one of the craziest narratives in all of Genesis. The famine hits. Abraham's like, you know what we're going to do? Here's what we're going to handle it. We're going to move again. Great. This time we're going down to Egypt, big city. And when we get there, here, listen, I know you are a looker, Sarah. You're a beautiful woman. And so there might be a threat to me because of how beautiful you are. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call you my sister. And then they'll leave me alone. And she's got to be like, but what about me? Right? Now, they do that. And I can tell you right now, if I were to say to Vicki, honey, I know you're a pretty girl, and there could be a threat to my life, so I'm going to call you my sister, and I'll be safe, and, kind of tough to be you. Yes, I can tell you where the threat to my life would come from Vicki, right? But Sarah does, and she goes through infertility. She goes through multiple moves, through the advance of the loss of the business. There is a battle that threatens her very existence. All of these things. And yet, in the New Testament, multiple times, she is called a model for women today. And some of you are on the tough side. It's like your kids and your husband are kind of a little bit afraid of you. Good. You got them right where you want them. Right? Godliness is reflected in a toughness, in a character that says, hey, I may be going through really difficult seasons right now. I may not be sure what the future holds. There may be advance or there may be setback in business, all of those things. One thing is steady. I'm going to trust the Lord. And that's Sarah's held up as a model of trust, of faith. Not only are the the character qualities, including strong, but also the woman is wise. Verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. And when you think of someone who's wise, you think of the Old Testament character of Naomi. Naomi, how would I describe Naomi? I would describe Naomi this way. She is a survivor. Tragically, her husband died when she was relatively young, and she lost 2 sons as well. It was just crushing loss for Naomi. She was resilient. In the face of that, she moved on. She wrestled with doubt. At one point she said, why don't you give me the nickname bitter, because that's where I am right now. That's pretty deep honesty, isn't it? And every mom has felt at times life's not fair. Maybe your losses haven't run as deep as Naomi's did, but you've wrestled with bitterness. All this that I've done, and look what I get. I don't deserve this. That's true. Naomi didn't either. But she chose to have faith and move on. And so I would say that what she was, when it comes to wisdom, she was savvy. She had this daughter-in-law named Ruth, high potential. They moved back. So Naomi had left Israel. They moved back there near Bethlehem. And Ruth is single, because Ruth also had married one of the sons who had died. Naomi says, you know, Ruth, you've been single long enough. I know a guy. Now, every kid right now is like, that's the worst. My mom picking the guy I'm going to go on a date with. Not only does mom pick the guy, he actually, a guy named Boaz, brilliant choice. She actually helped set up the first date. So, Ruth, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do the next thing. And by the way, it was bold. Just really bold. And it worked out so well. God so honored her faith that Ruth not only went on a date with this guy, not only, by the way, there's always a threat, right? There's always the other guy. It's a Hallmark movie, right? There's a quarterback and there's the nice guy. And I think, Vicki, is that right on Hallmark movies? Okay. Yeah, stop it, Scott. I have seen him playing in the background once in a while. And so, and in this case, the quarterback is a nice guy and he wins. And they get married, and just wise. Just having lived enough life. And sometimes, by the way, moms, women, the things that are hard or hurtful or losses are also the things that can help form our character and help you grow. And you can then utilize that to bless the next generation. That was Naomi. She was wise. Verse 27 back in Proverbs 31, she looks well to the ways of her household. She does not eat the bread of idleness. Strong, wise, and good. When you think of good mother, you can't help but think of Hannah. Hannah was in a troubled marriage, a lot of stress. Let me give you an example of, I would say, troubled marriage. Her husband, Elkanah, was a good man, loved her. He was just ham-fisted, ham-handed the way he handled it. Here, give you an example. Hannah had wrestled deeply with infertility. This is sort of a common thread with many Old Testament saints. And they'd tried but didn't have any children. And at one point, in frustration, Elkanah says, oh, Hannah, honey, aren't I better than 10 sons you could have? Okay, what's the answer to that? No, you're not. I mean, he was just so dense in that approach. And of course, that brought on more tears and frustrations and hurt. But what Hannah dedicated herself to was 2 things. One, prayer. She prayed. In fact, there's a great turn of phrase, for this child I prayed. And God gave her a little son. Interesting, she named him Samuel, which means the Lord heard me. He heard my prayer. Second thing she dedicated to was the spiritual formation of her son Samuel. Taking him to the equivalent of, we might say, Sunday school. She took him to the temple. He was educated in those things. And at one point, I love this. This is where we get our version of this. We'll do next Sunday. She dedicated Samuel to the Lord. And he chose the vocation of being a priest. In those days, priests would be married and that, but he served the Lord full time. Hannah, even during the time that he was in training, she would go and visit him. She'd bring him clothing. Every college kid's like, man, send me a care package. She did that, and she's a good woman. In the face of the hurt and frustration and disappointment, she devoted herself to prayer and to doing the best she could, good for her family. God honored her for that. So many of you, moms, wives, women, you haven't yet received the thing you've been praying for, hoping for, working for. Don't give up doing that which is good. Don't give up praying for what God has promised you. The model in Proverbs 31 that this woman wrote for her son, look for a woman like this, as someone who's strong, someone who's wise, someone who's good. And I love the last one. Look at verse 28 and 29. I just love this. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. And here's the quote from the children and the husband. Many women have done excellently. You surpass them all. Listen, moms, you have a platform like no one else. No one will ever replace you. Your words land deep in the heart of a son or a daughter. You are a model to them of what maturity looks like, of sacrificial giving looks like. In other words, you're influential. Don't minimize that. The influence that you have is something God intends to be used for good. In fact, when you think of influence, when you think of a woman who had influence, the single most influential woman in the history of the world, Jesus' mother Mary. Here's Mary's story. Single, mother, misunderstood, at times sort of the wink and the nod of, okay, we know what's happening here. And yet in the face of all of that, Mary, who was misunderstood, who at times must have felt a sense of aloneness, said one of the great statements of faith in all the history of the Scriptures. May it be to me as you have said. I'm going to trust the Lord. She had questions, didn't have all the answers she wanted, or didn't understand some of the answers that were provided, but she was faithful. Tremendous trust. She was single, afraid, she was trusting, and she was faithful. She was the one who stood by her Lord, by her Son, even when he was crucified. She was one of those, a witness of his resurrection. She was one at the grave on Easter Sunday morning. Her trust drove a faithfulness. Her faith in God drove a steadiness, even in the face of deep loss and suffering. Moms, women, do not underestimate the powerful influence you have in the lives of your family, your co-workers, your neighborhood, in this church. So, 2 applications. First is this. Women, speak up. Your family needs to hear you. They need to hear your voice. Here's the thing. You are good and you are strong and wise, and there's an influence that God has given you. Don't waste it. Proverbs 31, crafted by a woman who was giving counsel to her son who would ascend to the throne as king. And in Luke chapter 1, Mary wrote a poem, a song, the Magnificat is what it's called in our day. They use their voice to teach others. Don't miss the opportunity. Wiping noses, changing diapers, getting kids on the bus on time are opportunities not just to get them used to the discipline of daily life, but to teach them something. Every prayer you say at bedtime, powerful. Every storybook you read doesn't just go into their head or their heart, it goes into their soul. Precious memories for me as a pastor, and things that keep me anchored is my mom gathering us kids on the couch in that little front room of that little ranch house in northern Indiana. And I remember to this day, it was my chance. I read over several weeks the entire Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. I was probably 10 years old. That's a few years ago now. But a love for God's word, the recognition of the value of reading it, that stuck with me. Moms, 50 years from now, your kids are going to remember. We need to hear your voice. And there are times when you need to speak truth because you're strong and you're wise and you're good into the heart of your husband. Let me get to the second point. Women, speak up. Your family needs to hear your voice. Family, speak up. Your wife or mother needs to hear your voice. Husbands, men, when the women in our lives speak, listen, and then respond. Multiple times in the poem that this woman crafted, it says that they speak publicly and they speak well of the woman. Do we do that on a regular basis? Do our wives and our mothers and our daughters know, love them? We recognize the sacrifice. By the way, I think Mother's Day is a great thing. It's a great holiday. Do that. But they need to hear it on Mondays and Thursdays. They need to hear it when they're having a meltdown because the kids are having a meltdown. They need to hear it in pillow talk when it's like, man, my day today, da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, in your heart, you would never say this out loud. I don't care. But yeah. Stop it. If you know what's good for you, man, don't laugh at that. And so, man, they need to hear your voice as well. You need to be able to speak up. We need to verbally and in writing and in many ways demonstrate we understand not just what they do, and I love that the poem is crafted this way, but the character behind what they do. I mean, you think about it, this woman was a manager of a household, helped run a small business, had money to invest, and was a trusted partner for her husband, and was respected by her children. That's going to describe so many of you, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, those precious years, whether you're someone who's working outside the home, that doesn't matter nearly as much as the influence you can have in the lives of your sons, your daughters, your grandsons, and your granddaughters. And one last thing I would say. Wives, we need to hear women. Moms, we need to hear your voice. And then husbands, children, they need to hear our voices. This poem ends, verse 30, a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Now, 2 weeks ago, we introduced the study in Proverbs, and we said Proverbs 1:7, the theme of the whole book, is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You know what I love so much about the scriptures? It's just whole cloth. Proverbs chapter 1, think of a parenthesis, right? Proverbs chapter 1, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 31, the other end of that parenthesis, encapsulating what's in the middle. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Your wisdom, your womanhood, your strength of character, it begins with a relationship with the Father through the Son, Jesus Christ. That's why Mary is such a great example of that. Mary herself, the bearer of the Son of God, put her faith in Jesus, her Son. And as we close the message today, what I want to be able to do is pray over you, moms and dads and sons and daughters, a prayer of faith, because the beginning of wisdom and the strength and the wisdom and the goodness and the influence of a woman have their source in that woman's relationship with God, and that source is in the person of Jesus Christ. And so allow me to pray over you, and for some of you, maybe you're that person, you're like, Scott, this is good, this is a lot. I don't know that I can live up to all that. Well, listen, you can. But Your faith doesn't need to be in an institution. Our church, the church, a church. Or in a person, the pastor, the priest, all of those things. Those are important to be able to have those relationships of trust, and they add value to our life and our faith. But faith begins with trusting Jesus, Mary's son, for salvation. So let's do this. Let me lead us in a prayer of faith for that. And then what I want to be able to do is send you out with a blessing over, a blessing over you. And so join me in prayer. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for just the way you bless us with the understanding, Lord, and the truth of your word. I pray for moms here, some of, Lord, who have endured the kind of things that we read about in the women of the Scriptures. Lord, for some of them, they have suffered loss. Some, Father, have battled infertility. Others, Lord, have been in relationships that are painful or misunderstood, and some are single again. Father, I pray in those lives they would find your nearness and your care for them. And most of all, Lord, I pray they would have faith in your Son, Jesus Christ, who lived and died and rose again to provide eternal life for all who believe. Lord, hear our prayer of confession and of faith. We believe Jesus is the Son of God, who died, was buried, and rose again. And we believe that Jesus is the one who forgives our sins, adopts us into the family of God, and is our constant companion in this life. Father, help us to live for Jesus our Savior. We ask this in his name, and all God's people agreed by saying, amen. All right, let me ask you to stand. I want to send you out with this blessing from Numbers chapter 6. The Lord said, speak, and thus you shall bless the people. You shall say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And so shall you put my name upon them and bless them. Moms, dads, kiddos, go today in blessing with the peace of God upon you. Happy Mother's Day.